All right, everyone, let's go through the multiple regression, linear regression analysis assignment, see how you did. I think this wasn't one of the harder ones, but let's just do it anyway. So your job is to try 3 different models to try to predict authoritarianism. You can try an intermodel, a stepwise model, and a backwards model. And so we're predicting authoritarianism with sex, acceptance of others, religiosity, and homophobia. So unlike last semester, we can use multiple variables to predict authoritarianism. So we want to know, hey, what is the best model for doing that based on this criteria we looked at in class: R squared, parsimony, and practicality. So step number 1 is get descriptive statistics for the outcome, criterion, and all predictors. So for all interval or ratio variables, use the frequencies or descriptive procedures to get means and standard deviations. For all nominal variables, use frequencies to get counts and percentages. You need it for table 1 in your write-up. So looking in here, these are, so here's all the variables. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are continuous. 1 of them is nominal, right? So to get our means and standard deviations that we need for table 1, you can go to frequencies, or you can go to descriptives. I think descriptives is easier for the continuous one, so that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw in everything that is continuous. It's got the little ruler over here, and when I click OK, I get just what I need, not a bunch of extra crap. I get the means, I get the standard deviations. That's what we need. So that's for that, and that. What's missing? Sex. So you don't want to get the mean of a nominal variable because that doesn't make sense. Instead, you need the frequency distribution. So descriptives, frequencies. I'm going to throw sex in over there. Click. I don't want. That's kind of all I need. So there it is. 14 and 9, 42 and 57.6. Those are the percents you need. So this and this is what you needed for table 1. So then use correlations, the correlate procedure, to get correlations of all variables involved in the regression analyses. Do not use the correlations that are part of the regression procedure. And I think if you look at the write-up before you did this, which is sort of why I said to do that, first of all, we just got all these means and standard deviations that we needed. You have fewer things, so you just got to delete some rows here because you don't need all this stuff. You don't have like mother and father. And if you don't know how to delete a row, you click it to highlight the row, and you can right click and say delete row, and that's how you can get rid of rows. So right click, delete row, etc. So you do need this down here. This is where your 14, 15, 42.4, and 57.6 go. But anyway, looking at the correlation matrix, notice what we did here. Here they were predicting average drinks. This was the one from lecture, and that's variable 1. So column 1, this is all the correlations of all the variables with average drinks. For us, we want all the correlations of all the variables with what we're predicting, which is authoritarianism. So I'm going to put authoritarianism first, and the rest of them, it doesn't matter what order you do them in, but I recommend doing this at a minimum. So analyze, correlate, bivariate. I'm going to put authoritarianism first because that's what we're predicting. And then I will go ahead and throw all the rest in. Two-tailed's good. Okie doke. Boom. There we go. So that's our table. And these are the correlations that we need for the APA write-up. Just scooting down and looking what, not that it's in the assignment, but what looks like it might predict authoritarianism. It looks like acceptance of others. So lower acceptance of others associated with higher authoritarianism. It's negative. No, here's one. Higher homophobia is associated with being more authoritarian. This one's close, but not quite, right? So that's it. Those are the only 2 variables by the stars significantly correlate with authoritarianism. How about among the different predictors? Here's one. Higher homophobia is associated with lower acceptance of others. That's the only 2 predictors or potential predictors that are also correlated. So that is our preliminary correlations. We are now ready to run our linear regression analysis. So analyze, regression, linear. Dependent variable is what we're predicting. So that's authoritarianism. All of our other potential predictors go in independence. We need to click this statistics button, and we need to select R squared change and descriptives, get some means and standard deviations, part and partial correlation so we can square things. And continue. All right, that's working. And the default here is already enter. So we just click OK. All right, we got an enter model. Everything's in there. It did one step and it's statistically significant. It accounts for, well, we'll go through that in a sec. So then I just tell you, hey, go back in and do the rest. So and do you enter, now do stepwise. So we go back in and it saves all our options, which is one of the good things about SPSS. We change this to stepwise, click OK. We get a stepwise model now. How do you know? It says stepwise here. That's how. I might actually, just so I don't get confused, add it to these. Remember, you can write words here, stepwise model. And up top, I think I'll add that this is our enter model. It's also called simultaneous, but enter model. And then for the last one, when we get there, I'll put our backwards model. So go back in to run our final model, linear, change this method to backward, click OK. We now have a backwards model. So let me add that. It's a backwards model. And that's all the SPSS you had to do. So it was not that bad. So your job is to fill in the table here of the R-squareds, number of predictors, and ease of predictors, and your opinion for a particular model, the practicality. So let's do that. So going up to our, there we go, going up to our enter model. Let's see what we got. We have an R-squared of 0.570, so I'll just say 0.57. I'm going to go ahead and center all this stuff just so, come on, internet. You center, bold, there we go, and highlight. How many predictors are in our enter model? Well, the easy way to figure it out is, well, there's a couple ways. So here you could say you don't count constant, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Which is all of them. You can also do it here by counting every row. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 predictors for the enter model. That's what it does. And how easy are to get those predictors? I think we kind of have to do that at the end, but enter is always last because it means you got to get everything, right? So I'm going to make that third. Let's go to our stepwise model. Stepwise, I noted it. Stepwise model has a R-squared. Always go to that last step of 0.459. So I'm just going to round that to 0.46. 0.46. And how many predictors are in there? Well, 1, 2 predictors. All that was required was acceptance of others and homophobia. And again, final step here, step 2, all we have is acceptance of others and homophobia. Ease of predictors, I don't know yet. I'm going to wait till we look at our backwards model. There's our backwards model. Backwards model did 2 steps, took out homophobia, so it left in, what is that, 3 predictors, 1, 2, 3 predictors. Our R-squared at the final step is 0.53, 0.53, with 1, 2, 3 predictors. All right, so now we got to do a comparison. So this one's got 3 predictors: sex, religiosity, and acceptance of others. The stepwise model, let's see, you had to get acceptance of others and homophobia. So is one of these variables you think is going to be harder? Some people think homophobia, people are just going to lie in your study and give you BS answers, so you won't, like, they're going to use a social desirability response set, not be honest. That's their argument. That's a perfectly valid argument. Other people think religiosity is like that. People are just going to lie to you about their religiosity. So there's no wrong answer for stepwise or backwards. The wrong answer is enter. Like, you don't have to get everything if you don't have to. And I'll explain my logic in a sec. So for me, I thought that homophobia would be harder. Oops, not 25. Harder to get. Religiosity would be easier to get. Sex is basically, it's so easy to ask that question that it doesn't even count as like a third variable, in my opinion. But religiosity and acceptance of others, stepwise also had acceptance of others in it, but it had homophobia instead of religiosity. So really it comes down to which one do you think is harder to get, homophobia or religiosity? I think homophobia, people are just going to lie. So I put rank of 2 for stepwise, rank of 1 where I get religiosity. So you do not have to agree with me, and that's okay. So Scott picked backwards. That's the one I liked. As you know, from lecture part 2. And basically I said, you know what, with this model, you get a only a little 0.04 drop in your R squared, and only requires 3 variables. And one of them is super duper easy to get, even though this is a bigger drop, right? So it's a 11.11 drop. It's too big of a drop for me to feel comfortable with it. Plus, I think homophobia would be a pain in the ass to get, and everyone would just lie and use social desirability response sets. So that's okay, whichever one you pick. Like, I mean, it really is. It's like on your dissertation, it's your dissertation. So all that you really need to know is how to fill in this stuff. And so if you chose the model that is for stepwise, the B's go in the B's for step 2. Constant is included, it goes on the constant line. Your betas are right here, so you need those. Your R squared changes in here. Where do you get R squared change? Well, you get R squared change up above R square change. First step, it's 0.38. Second step, it's 0.11. R is just this 0 order correlation right here, negative 0.618 and 0.58. And then to get these squared semi-partial, you square these. That's all you do. So just so you can check your answers, let me see if what I get when I do it. So 0.391 squared. You should have got 0.15 for what variable is this? Acceptance of others. Okay, is 0.15. Homophobia, if you chose this model, is 0.334 squared. So 0.334 squared, you should have got 0.11. If you chose the backwards model, similarly, you got to fill out all this stuff. For step 2, you've got the constant row at the bottom, and then you have to add another row. So people ask me, how do you add another row? And there's a couple ways to do it. The easiest is highlight a row, hit copy, and then hit paste. Oops, that didn't do it. What I know that I always use the cheat keys. And there you go. That'll add another row. Just delete the stuff that's in there and write over it with what you need. The other variable. So your B's, your betas are here. Don't forget to star your betas based on whether they're significant or not. All of them here are, so they all get a star. There's your R by itself column. And then your squared semi-partial correlations, let me also match those with you, or 0.543, technically negative, but it doesn't change anything. Squared is 0.29 for, that's probably acceptance of others, right? Yep, acceptance of others is, again, 0.29. For the next one, it's 0.317. So clear 0.317 squared is 0.10. So you should have had 0.10 for religiosity. And then finally for sex is 0.269. So 0.269. And you can make it negative or not, it doesn't matter, but square it is 0.07. So most important predictor is acceptance of others, followed by religiosity and then sex. Up here, most important, if you chose the stepwise model, your most important predictor. Where am I? There we go. Most important predictor is going to be acceptance of others, followed by secondly, homophobia. And that's it. So hopefully that wasn't too bad and you did it okay. And if you have questions, go ahead and post them.